Open your eyes and look down at the pavement. Reality smells different from the postcards. Not citrus and sea air, but overheated plastic trash bags rotting for weeks on city streets because authorities and contractors cannot agree on waste contracts. Not noble ruins and cinematic romance, but wild boars rummaging through garbage not far from the Vatican, scattering leftovers across stones once walked by emperors. Welcome to the real Italy of the 21st century, a country held hostage by its own glorious past. For decades, the world has imagined Italy as paradise: art, food, history, beauty. But if you turn off social media filters and step away from tourist routes, you begin to see something else: a once grand mansion slowly collapsing while its heirs sell the family silver just to keep the illusion alive a little longer. Modern Italy is not an economic miracle. It is often called the sick man of Europe, sustained largely by financial support mechanisms that keep the system breathing but do not cure the disease. In economic terms, time has almost stopped. Imagine a country that has barely grown for 30 years. An entire generation has been born and raised without experiencing real prosperity. Youth unemployment remains high. Many talented young Italians leave, and those who stay often feel stuck in a system offering few opportunities beyond tourism and service jobs. Another hidden problem lies in organized crime, which long ago stopped resembling Hollywood movies. Today's mafia does not look like men in flat caps firing guns in Palermo. It wears expensive suits, speaks several languages, and moves money through international financial centers. Groups like the 'Ndrangheta, originating in Calabria, have become global criminal corporations with revenues comparable to those of major multinational companies. Drug trafficking, especially cocaine entering Europe through Italian ports, generates enormous profits. The real danger is not only how this money is earned, but how it is spent. Criminal capital flows into legitimate businesses: restaurants, hotels, construction firms, logistics companies, slowly penetrating the legal economy. Like a disease spreading silently, it distorts markets and undermines honest entrepreneurship. Economic troubles were intensified after the introduction of the euro. Many Italians remember the so-called 1,000 lire effect. Prices seemed to double overnight when the country switched currencies. While the official conversion rate was different, everyday costs, coffee, transport, groceries, quickly rose, and people felt their purchasing power shrink. On a larger scale, sharing a common currency with stronger economies like Germany meant Italy could no longer devalue its currency to boost competitiveness. To succeed, the country needed structural reforms, innovation, and reduced corruption. But change proved slow and politically difficult. The result: decades of stagnation. Then there is public debt, one of the largest in Europe, amounting to trillions of euros and well over a year's total economic output. Each year, enormous sums go simply to paying interest. Money that could rebuild infrastructure, support schools, or modernize hospitals instead disappears into debt servicing. Italy avoids financial collapse largely because European institutions cannot afford to let such a major economy fall. Its failure would shake the entire Eurozone. Social consequences are visible beyond statistics. Many workers in tourist cities feel resentment toward visitors who spend in one evening what locals earn in a week. Outside tourist centers, shuttered shops, aging populations, and neglected neighborhoods tell another story. The famous Dolce Vita often feels like a performance maintained for visitors while ordinary citizens struggle with rising costs and limited prospects. Take Turin, once the industrial heart of the country. Decades ago, factories thundered with production lines and thousands of workers built cars that put Italy on wheels. Companies like Fiat symbolized national strength and ambition. Today, much of that industrial energy has faded. Silence in former manufacturing districts is one of the most worrying sounds for any economy. Italy remains a country of immense cultural wealth and human talent, but it faces deep structural challenges: slow growth, debt pressure, demographic decline, and the lingering influence of organized crime. The contrast between postcard beauty and everyday reality grows sharper each year. The question is whether Italy can reinvent itself, investing in innovation, rebuilding trust in institutions, and offering younger generations reasons to stay and build their future at home. Otherwise, The gap between the dream sold to tourists and the life lived by residents will continue to widen, turning one of Europe's most admired nations into a place surviving more on memory than on momentum. At the same time, Italy's problems are not limited to economics or crime. Demographics are becoming an even quieter but more dangerous crisis. Italians are having fewer children than almost any other population in Europe. Young people postpone starting families because stable jobs are rare, housing is expensive, and the future feels uncertain. An aging population means fewer workers supporting more retirees. Pension and healthcare systems face growing pressure, while the workforce shrinks. Small towns across southern regions are slowly emptying as younger residents move north or leave the country entirely. Some villages now sell abandoned homes for symbolic prices just to attract new inhabitants and prevent total disappearance. Tourism, often seen as Italy's salvation, also has a double edge. Cities like Venice, Florence, and Rome are overwhelmed by millions of visitors each year. Local residents are pushed out by rising rents as apartments are converted into short-term tourist rentals. Historic centers risk turning into open-air museums where real community life disappears, replaced by souvenir shops and restaurants catering almost exclusively to visitors. Climate change adds yet another challenge. Italy increasingly suffers from heat waves, droughts, and destructive floods. Agricultural regions struggle with water shortages, threatening crops and rural economies. Coastal areas face erosion, and famous cities like Venice continue battling rising sea levels. Maintaining historical infrastructure under changing environmental conditions requires enormous investment. And yet, despite everything, Italy refuses to collapse. Its resilience lies in family networks, small businesses, craftsmanship, and regional identity. Thousands of small and medium-sized enterprises still produce world-class goods, from fashion and design to specialized machinery and food products. Italian creativity and adaptability remain powerful resources. In recent years, efforts have begun to modernize parts of the economy, invest in digital infrastructure, and use European recovery funds to stimulate growth. Whether these reforms will be enough remains uncertain, but they show that decline is not inevitable. Italy today is a country of contrasts, breathtaking beauty alongside economic stagnation, cultural brilliance beside bureaucratic paralysis, warm community life mixed with frustration over limited opportunities. For visitors, it remains one of the most enchanting places on earth. For many residents, however, daily life is a complex balancing act between pride in their heritage and concern about the future. The real story of Italy is not simply one of decline or decay. It is the story of a nation struggling to transform itself while carrying the immense weight of its past. The outcome will depend on whether Italy can turn its history from a burden into a foundation for renewal, proving that even countries with the deepest problems can find a way forward if they choose change over nostalgia. But transformation requires difficult decisions, and this is where Italy often struggles most. Political instability has long been part of the country's reality. Governments change frequently, coalitions collapse, and reforms are started only to be softened or reversed under pressure from competing interests. Long-term planning becomes difficult when leadership changes every few years. Bureaucracy remains another obstacle. Starting a business, obtaining permits, or completing construction projects can take years. Investors often complain about complex regulations and slow administrative processes. For small entrepreneurs, who form the backbone of the Italian economy, navigating paperwork can feel like fighting an endless battle. Regional inequality also divides the country. Northern regions such as Lombardy and Emilia-Romagna are relatively prosperous, industrialized, and connected to European markets. Meanwhile, parts of southern Italy still struggle with unemployment, weaker infrastructure, and limited investment. Many young people leave southern regions not out of choice but necessity, seeking opportunities elsewhere. Education and innovation present another challenge. Italy produces brilliant scientists, engineers, designers, and artists, yet many of them build careers abroad. Universities often lack funding, research opportunities are limited compared to other advanced economies, and bureaucratic hurdles slow cooperation between academia and industry. The result is a constant brain drain. Housing costs in major cities further complicate life for younger generations. Buying property has become increasingly difficult without family support. Temporary contracts and unstable employment make long-term planning nearly impossible. Many young adults continue living with their parents far longer than previous generations did, not by tradition but by economic necessity. Still, beneath these difficulties, there are signs of renewal. Tech startups are slowly emerging in cities like Milan and Turin. Sustainable agriculture, green energy projects, and creative industries are attracting new investment. Italian companies continue to lead in niche manufacturing sectors, producing specialized machinery and luxury goods that remain competitive worldwide. Local communities are experimenting with new ways to revive declining towns, encouraging remote workers to relocate, restoring abandoned buildings, and promoting sustainable tourism rather than mass tourism. Some regions are investing in digital infrastructure to allow people to work remotely while living in smaller towns, bringing life back to forgotten places. Ultimately, Italy stands at a crossroads. One path leads to gradual decline, aging population, economic stagnation, and dependence on tourism and external support. The other path demands modernization, transparency, investment in youth, and adaptation to a changing global economy. The paradox of Italy is that it possesses everything needed for success: cultural prestige, skilled people, strategic location, industrial tradition, and global recognition. Yet turning these advantages into sustainable progress requires breaking habits formed over decades. Perhaps the future of Italy will not resemble the booming industrial powerhouse of the past, nor the carefree dreams sold in travel brochures. Instead, it may become something different, a country that learns to balance preservation of its unique heritage with the courage to reinvent itself. And maybe the real question is not whether Italy is declining, but whether it can prove that even nations weighed down by history can still write a new chapter, one not based solely on memories of greatness, but on the determination to create it again. Much will depend on how the next generation responds to this challenge. Across the country, young Italians are trying to build alternatives, launching small innovative companies, restoring traditional crafts with modern technology, developing sustainable tourism, and creating cultural projects that connect local communities with global audiences. Digital transformation offers another possible turning point. Remote work, online services, and international collaboration reduce the need to concentrate opportunity only in major cities. If infrastructure improves, smaller towns could attract professionals seeking lower living costs and better quality of life, helping reverse decades of internal migration. Immigration also plays a growing role in Italy's future. While politically sensitive, migrant communities already support sectors like agriculture, construction, and caregiving. Proper integration policies could help offset population decline while revitalizing local economies that struggle to find workers. At the same time, preserving Italy's historical and natural heritage remains essential. The country's cultural wealth is not only a source of pride, but also a powerful economic resource. Balancing preservation with modernization will determine whether cities remain living communities rather than becoming empty monuments visited only by tourists. There is also a psychological factor. For many Italians, the challenge lies in overcoming a sense of resignation, the feeling that decline is inevitable. Yet history shows that countries can reinvent themselves when crisis forces innovation. Italy has repeatedly transformed itself across centuries, surviving wars, economic turmoil, and political upheavals. Perhaps the truth is that Italy is neither collapsing nor flourishing. It is in transition. A nation caught between the weight of its glorious past and the uncertainty of a rapidly changing future. The streets will still fill with evening conversations, cafes will still serve espresso at crowded counters, and families will still gather around long Sunday lunches. Life continues with a mixture of beauty and struggle, optimism and frustration. And so, the real story of modern Italy remains unfinished. Whether the country becomes a renewed example of European resilience or continues drifting through slow stagnation will depend on choices made in the coming years. For now, Italy stands as both a warning and a promise, proof that even the most admired nations must constantly rebuild themselves if they want their future to be as remarkable as their past. In the end, Italy's situation reflects a broader challenge facing many developed countries: how to preserve identity while adapting to rapid global change. Global competition, technological shifts, and economic uncertainty do not spare even the most culturally rich nations. History alone cannot guarantee prosperity. Many observers note that Italy's greatest strength, its deep attachment to tradition and local identity, can also slow necessary reforms. Family businesses often pass from one generation to the next, sometimes preserving quality and craftsmanship, but sometimes resisting modernization. Cities protect historic centers, yet strict regulations can make development difficult. Change arrives slowly, negotiated through compromise rather than driven by urgency. Still, moments of crisis often become turning points. Economic pressure pushes companies to innovate. Rising energy costs accelerate investment in renewable sources. Tourism challenges encourage cities to rethink urban planning and sustainability. Step by step, adjustments take place, even if they are less dramatic than outsiders expect. The international image of Italy also continues to evolve. Beyond pizza and Renaissance art, the country remains influential in fashion, automotive design, food technology, architecture, and luxury manufacturing. Italian brands still symbolize quality and style worldwide. These industries show that global competitiveness is still possible when innovation meets tradition. Yet the everyday concerns of ordinary citizens remain decisive. Stable employment, affordable housing, reliable public services, and opportunities for young people matter more than international prestige. Without addressing these fundamental needs, economic statistics alone cannot restore confidence. Observers sometimes forget that Italy's regional diversity makes reform complicated. Each region has its own priorities, economic structures, and political cultures. Policies that work in industrial northern cities may not suit agricultural southern provinces or small mountain communities. National solutions must balance very different realities. Despite frustrations, Italians continue to display remarkable adaptability in daily life. Informal support networks, family solidarity, and local cooperation often compensate for institutional weaknesses. When systems fail, people find ways around obstacles, sometimes inefficiently but often creatively. Looking forward, technology, green transformation, and new business models could open unexpected opportunities. Renewable energy projects, sustainable agriculture, creative industries, and digital services may reshape economic landscapes in ways difficult to predict today. Italy's story, therefore, remains complex and unfinished. It is neither the paradise of postcards nor a nation in irreversible decline. It is a country negotiating its future, carrying immense cultural inheritance while searching for new momentum in a rapidly changing world. And perhaps this uncertainty is not unique to Italy at all. In many ways, the country simply mirrors the larger European question: how to move forward without losing what makes each nation distinct. The answer has yet to be written, in Italy and beyond. And so the conversation about Italy ultimately returns to a simple but uncomfortable truth: beauty alone cannot sustain a modern nation. Tourists may come for architecture, cuisine, and landscapes, but residents must deal with jobs, wages, infrastructure, and the cost of living every single day. For some Italians, frustration grows as they compare their country with faster-growing economies elsewhere in Europe. Opportunities sometimes seem easier to find abroad, leading to a steady flow of students and professionals seeking careers in Germany, the United Kingdom, France, or beyond Europe altogether. Each departure represents lost potential at home. At the same time, many who leave eventually feel drawn back. Italy offers something difficult to measure in economic statistics: quality of life rooted in culture, climate, food, and social connections. Even those who build successful careers abroad often dream of returning, hoping conditions will one day allow them to combine professional opportunities with the lifestyle they miss. The future may depend on whether Italy can transform these emotional ties into economic renewal. Encouraging entrepreneurship, supporting innovation, simplifying regulations, and investing in education could help turn talent retention into a realistic strategy rather than a distant hope. Another important factor is Europe itself. Italy's fate is closely connected to the European Union's stability and policies. Shared recovery programs, infrastructure investments, and cooperation on energy and migration will shape economic prospects in the coming decades. Success or failure will rarely be purely national. Meanwhile, everyday life continues with its familiar rhythm. Morning coffee at crowded bars, evening walks through historic streets, weekend gatherings with family and friends. These traditions remain deeply rooted. For many Italians, maintaining this social fabric is just as important as economic success. Perhaps this is why predictions about Italy often miss the point. The country has been declared in decline many times before, yet it continues to endure, adapting slowly but persistently. Progress may not always be dramatic, but neither is collapse inevitable. In the end, Italy remains a paradox, a nation admired worldwide, struggling internally, yet still capable of renewal. Its future will likely be neither a disaster nor a miracle, but something in between, shaped by gradual reforms, economic realities, and the determination of its people. And as long as new generations continue debating, creating, protesting, and building within the country, the story remains open. Italy's next chapter has not yet been written, and its outcome will depend not only on governments and institutions, but on millions of individual choices made every day across cities, towns, and villages throughout the peninsula. In the years ahead, the real test for Italy will not be whether it can preserve its monuments or continue attracting visitors, but whether it can offer its citizens confidence in tomorrow. Economic numbers, political debates, and reform programs ultimately matter only if they improve daily life for ordinary people. Infrastructure renewal remains one of the country's biggest needs. Many roads, bridges, railways, and public facilities require modernization after decades of limited investment. Improving transport connections between regions could stimulate business activity and reduce the economic gap between North and South. Energy policy will also shape the future. As Europe moves toward greener energy sources, Italy has opportunities thanks to its climate and geography. Solar and wind projects, along with innovation in energy efficiency, could reduce dependence on imports while creating new industries and jobs. Urban development presents another challenge. Large cities must balance tourism, housing needs, and livability. Without careful planning, historic centers risk becoming spaces designed only for visitors, pushing residents farther away and weakening community life. Sustainable urban policies could help cities remain living environments rather than commercial showcases. Agriculture, one of Italy's traditional strengths, is also changing. Farmers face competition, climate pressures, and rising production costs. Yet demand for high-quality food and sustainable farming methods creates new possibilities for rural areas if modernization and innovation are embraced. At the same time, social cohesion remains crucial. Economic reforms succeed only when citizens trust institutions and believe sacrifices will lead to improvement. Fighting corruption, increasing transparency, and strengthening public services are essential steps in rebuilding that trust. Italy's long history shows cycles of decline followed by renewal. From fragmented medieval states to Renaissance centers of culture, from post-war poverty to industrial growth, the country has repeatedly reinvented itself when circumstances demanded change. Today may simply be another transitional period. Challenges appear overwhelming, yet opportunities exist for those willing to adapt. Innovation, education, environmental sustainability, and smarter economic policies could gradually reshape the nation's trajectory. For now, Italy continues to live between two realities: the admiration of outsiders and the concerns of insiders. Tourists admire beauty preserved over centuries, while citizens navigate the practical struggles of modern life. The final outcome is still uncertain. But as long as debate continues, reforms are attempted, and new ideas emerge, Italy remains a country in motion rather than a story already finished. And perhaps that is the most accurate conclusion. Italy's future, like its past, will likely be complicated, unpredictable, and deeply human, shaped not only by economics and politics, but by the enduring ability of its people to adapt, endure, and begin again when necessary. Tully's story is still being written. The narrow streets, sunlit piazzas, and centuries-old cathedrals are not just relics. They are reminders of resilience, creativity, and human ambition. Change will not come overnight, nor will it erase the weight of history. But in the workshops, the small factories, the family-run vineyards, and the classrooms where young minds dream of new possibilities, there is a quiet determination to build a future that honors the past without being trapped by it. The real Italy is neither perfect nor picturesque, yet it endures. It is a nation learning, slowly but surely, that survival is not merely about holding on. It is about reinventing, investing, and believing that even the heaviest burdens can become the foundation for renewal. For those willing to look beyond the postcards, Italy offers not just beauty, but a lesson in resilience, a story of persistence, and, perhaps most importantly, hope.